I will say definitely I'm not taking any risks in introducing our next speaker, although I did get a chance to talk to him at lunch, and I think I've changed my mind. That's just a joke, Drew. Risk management is something that many small businesses have a difficult time wrapping their arms around. Deceptively simple questions. What types of risks threaten my business? How do I measure the potential effects of those risks? What kind of actions can I take to prevent those things from happening to me? Well, have no fear. Drew Nagai, Vice President of Sales and Marketing, Risk and Safety Management at First Insurance Company of Hawaii, is here to help you explore those questions and the role of insurance in a business portfolio of operations. Drew has over 25 years of risk management experience, and as outlined in our conference program, he truly believes an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So let's welcome Drew Nagai.
Thank you, Frank. Good afternoon, everybody. So, as a small business owner, what keeps you up at night? Is it attracting and retaining profitable business? What about controlling expenses? Employees? Easy to get good employees, right? What about business continuity? I remember a few years back, we insured ice cream cone manufacturer, and nobody knew it, but that particular machine was built in Europe, and it took 1.5 years to build. So what happens if that machine goes down or you lose that machine that's in a fire? Okay, so insurance is more of a risk transfer mechanism. It doesn't really get to the root of the problem. I'll give you an example of the power of fire. Okay, so let's say there's a restaurant and commercial cooking operations, the exposure is fire. Okay, so let's say there is a fire. The insurance will take care of your financial loss as respects to your building, but there's still that loss that occurs. How many of you folks have customers that are regular customers? Okay. What happens to those customers during the time that your building is not there? Okay. Do they go to another restaurant? Yeah, probably. People need to eat, right? Okay, cost containment. And I just wanted to talk about workers' compensation a little bit. Okay, so at its heart, management is about motivating, coordinating, directing efforts of people to meet organizational objectives. Okay. Of these many responsibilities, keeping your associates safe transcends to important human desire. So Maui's kind of a small community, right? Let's say one of your employees gets hurt, really hurt. You're probably going to see their families at the grocery store every once in a while. And you might think, well, my employees are not really exposed to getting badly injured. But one thing to keep in mind is that occupationally, driving a vehicle is the most dangerous thing you can do. Okay? So there's more deaths occupationally than from driving than just in any other cause. Okay. So let's talk about insurance and how the rates are derived. Okay, let's say contractor A. Okay, we're talking about an experience modifier. There's two contractors. Contractor A, because of their loss experience, has a 0.7 X-mod or experience modifier. Okay, so the base premium is $10,000. And so the base premium gets multiplied by the experience modifier. It's supposed to be 0.7, but it's a $7,000 premium. And then there's contractor B. They have a 1.7 experience mod, so they don't have a good experience. And the base premium is the same. They have the same payroll, same amount of employees, same type of operation. But their base premium gets multiplied by 1.7. So that's a $10,000 differences of insurance. So one of our best customers, it's a contractor, they have a 0.5 XMOD. Okay, I just saw an application come in for a workers' compensation policy with a 2.0 XMOD. But those two contractors, their insurance costs are very different. But when those two drywall contractors go to bid a job, who has the competitive advantage, right? And it's by a lot. Okay, so why are there accidents? Okay, they said 20% is because of unsafe conditions, but 80% is because of unsafe acts. And I'd argue that the 20% unsafe conditions is probably because of an unsafe act. Somebody didn't do something. There's preventive maintenance issues. Okay? Conditions can be detected by inspection, but acts involve people. And that's the challenging piece. So how do you control it? Okay, so this is like the safety iceberg. An insurance company will pay what's exposed. Okay? But especially with workers' compensation, especially with a big loss, the business ends up paying the portion underneath the water. Okay? And I speak to a lot of managers, and most of them say the biggest cost is hiring and training a replacement. Think about if one of your key employees got injured to the point where he or she couldn't come to work. Okay? And getting people in the door is one thing, training them is another. As a manager, how long does it take you folks to train a person to be competent in their position? Anybody? 2 weeks? 1 year? Yeah? Depending what the position is. And the other thing is some people don't get it and you got to start all over again. That's a major cost. The other thing are there's intangibles like public relations and perceptions. I remember one time we insured a big distribution company and somebody got drunk and ran over a motorcyclist. Okay? So the news media is in front of their gates talking to the employees with their trucks on the news. How's the public perception of that company going to be, right? And that's some of the intangibles. Okay, what about retaining customers? It's really important to retain good customers, right? I heard a lot about customer focus in previous sessions. So let's talk about premises safety, walking surfaces, and the customer experience. I tell our large hotel operations, your guests spend thousands of dollars to come to Hawaii. A lot of them plan for years. They come to Hawaii, they slip and fall, crack their head. What kind of customer experience is that? Are they going to come back? Probably not. Okay, another issue that a lot of us are dealing with is the aging population. So if you notice, a lot of more mature people, when they're walking around, they're not picking up their feet, right? They're kind of shuffling their feet. So if there's any change in the floor level surface, that's an obvious trip hazard. Okay? That's just things to think about. What about inattention? That's a big thing. I have 4 kids. When my daughter was about 19, my oldest one, I scolded her because she was texting walking across the street. Yeah. And then she got mad at me because she said, if I get hit, I'm in the crosswalk. That's the guy's fault. What are you going to do? The other thing with inattention is when you're walking, we did a study, okay? When you're walking, a lot of times you're looking 10 to 15 feet in front of you, not where you're actually walking. Okay, so there's a lot of things. Even driving, inattention to driving, that's a big thing right now. But we're talking about, walking surfaces. Okay. Floor level changes, that's a big thing. So as much as possible, if you're designing a place, try to avoid floor level changes. That's one of the biggest factors in trips and falls. Okay? Maintenance and control of sources of moisture, really important. And even when you put out mats, we have a lot of trip and falls from mats that are folded up on the ends. Because you're thinking you're doing a good thing. You're stopping the moisture from getting in your premises, right, with the mat. But you need to maintain the mat too. Also, when the mat gets saturated, needs to be replaced, right? Because then you're just trekking water all over the place. Okay, so there's $1 million mop. I used to work for another carrier, and this restaurant had a chain of stores in California. There's 7 or 8 stores. Actually, the losses were way more than $1 million, but they had a cleaning crew that drove around to the different restaurants at night to clean the floors and the restaurants. So what happened was they used the same mop in all of the stores, and they never cleaned them up. And we could never figure it out. We said, are you cleaning the floors? Yeah, we are. Every night, we clean the floors. But that mop cost like over $2 million of losses, okay, because it was dirty, and it was just swishing the grease all around. Okay. Coefficient of friction, they say that the most important thing is to follow the manufacturer's recommendations on how to clean the floors. A lot of times when you put detergents on the floor, you're not really cleaning it. You're adding layers, and it's called polymerization, to the point where if any kind of moisture gets on there, it's like a skating ring. And I don't know if you ever experienced that before, but it's really hard to clean off. Okay, let's talk about business continuity and climate change a little bit. I'm not saying global warming or anything. It's just the climate is changing. It's a fact. Okay? But we are seeing record warm years, okay, in the recent past. And there's increased climate instability. Was it really cold on Sunday? Yeah, it was really cold, yeah. And then Monday, was it really hot? Yeah, so there's wide fluctuations now, and that's what's happening. Okay, so in 2015, there were over 300 weather-related disasters around the world. And that number keeps on climbing. Okay. So warmer atmospheres, we're going to see more intense rains because the atmosphere holds more water. So when it releases, the rains are more intense. And I think we're seeing it now. Did it storm here this weekend? Yep. Okay. More drought because there's less ground moisture. So there's going to be extremes. And that's something to think about, and I'm leading up to something. We're also seeing rising sea levels. I mean, there's some South Pacific islands that are in trouble right now. But there's more flooding forecasted into the future. So even for your homes, but especially for your businesses, and keep those things in mind. Oops, sorry. So what we're seeing with flooding is, with the high-rise buildings on Oahu, in Waikiki, so because the rains are more intense, the drainage systems aren't designed to handle that much water. And so what's happening is, by the time the water gets down to the third, second, first floors, because of the hydraulic pressure, the pipes are bursting when there's a large downpour of rain. Yeah. So that's something to keep in mind. A lot of buildings are leaking. A lot of buildings are not designed to take on that much water. And I think in the future, it's going to get worse. Of course, there's always flood insurance, right? Okay, so business continuity, we got a lot of good information about cyber liability. And I don't work with it directly, but First Insurance is part of the Tokyo Marine Group. And I talked to the folks at Philadelphia Insurance, and they provide cyber liability insurance right now. Okay. So in speaking with them, they said it's rapidly evolving. Just because you have like PayPal, you're not totally protected against cyber liability in terms of credit card processing. According to them, when there is a breach, it costs about $250 per record. And that's because of notification. The government requires notification, has notification requirements, monitoring, legal fees, fines and penalties. File maintenance, I think, it was discussed earlier where human error is a big thing. Managing firewalls, workstation management, and there's some inside jobs. Okay. And one of the things they told me is watch out for extortion, and we kind of touched upon that, but what they're seeing is a lot of times they're asking for $500 or $800, and some people pay it because they think, okay, it's just $500, I'm going to pay it. But that's happening a lot. Okay, paper records. Okay, so in Waikiki, about 4 months ago, Philadelphia Insurance had a claim for a restaurant in Waikiki. It was over 6 figures. Yeah, so it is happening over here. It affects customer goodwill. And one of the things, if you get insurance, most carriers will provide is prevention measures to help out. And they also have plans in place. Because from what I understand, if you get hacked and you don't have a plan in place, it's kind of too late already. I don't know if that's true, but yeah. Okay, so what the safety consultants or the insurance consultants do is they take a look at this chart and they do an evaluation. And that's what you should do too. I mean, is an event that's going to happen, is it going to happen frequently? And if it does, what's the effect on what happens? So again, I bring it back to a typical restaurant. So turn of the century, there's a lot of restaurants coming up. You know, industrial revolution is going on. But you know what? There are a lot of fires, a lot of commercial cooking fires. So what's happening is that there's a lot of fires, a lot of controls are being put in place. And now it's relatively safe. We had maybe 3 or 4 fires last year for restaurants. But you know, always looking at this continuum. For example, this place right here, you see a lot of exit signs. Okay, there are sufficient exits. How many times there's going to be a fire in here? I mean, what is the real hazard? It's not going to happen often, but you guys are important, so it's really important to have sufficient fire exits, right? Areas lighted so that we can get out, proper illumination. So in that case, low frequency but high severity, we need to prioritize that. Okay. Talk a little bit about risk transfer. Insurance is a risk transfer mechanism. Okay, so risk transfer is a strategy, okay? And it's contractually shifting pure risk from one party to another. Okay, but what about other risk transfer mechanisms? How many of you work with contractors? How many of you have vendors, suppliers? So it's important in all those areas to have good risk transfer, because you don't want somebody else's mistake to be your problem, right? Okay, so the agreements can be positive. It's almost like I take care of my responsibility, you take care of your responsibility, or neutral. Positive in that you're protected even if you make a mistake, and you never want this kind of situation where it's adverse. You're going to take care of somebody else's mistake, okay? Okay, so there's different layers of protection. The first one is, anybody ever got asked for a certificate of insurance before? Okay. So, yeah, so it's a certificate of insurance. And it's important to remember, it's just a snapshot. So all it's saying is, on this date, you have insurance. There is insurance in place, and this is the policy limit. Okay? So let's say later, there's no guarantee, because later on, what can happen is, let's say that somebody doesn't pay the premium, and insurance gets canceled. So what happens is you might have a certificate of insurance in hand, but no coverage. Okay? But it is a good control, though, to say that at that time there was insurance. Okay, so for added protection, there's an additional insured status where you're actually on somebody else's policy, or you're giving somebody else additional insured protection. And there's a lot of reasons why it's really important, but the big one is defense costs, because one of the things with liability insurance is, let's say you have $1 million worth of liability coverage, And that's pretty standard, maybe $2 million. But on the defense cost, there is no limit. Okay? So the defense cost doesn't erode the policy limits. Okay? And indemnification provisions are very important too. You need to read the contracts, hold harmless. Agreements are important as well. Okay. So I kind of want to end with this, and this is what we call a safety triangle. So how many people in here drive a car? Virtually everybody, right? Okay, so when we talk about 300 to 600 incidences, we're talking about, for example, you ever see people run red lights before? Okay, so when I was driving here, I saw a couple people run red lights. It happens all the time, right? So the theory is that you can run 300 to 600 red lights and not get it, and then after that, there's going to be about 30 accidents with property damage, just the car gets damaged, and maybe 10 to 29 injuries, not real bad, but there might be that one time, or there's going to be the one time where and the statistics play out that there's going to be a really bad injury, yeah, or even that. So one of our consultants was talking to a statewide organization about safety, and he asked the question about who drives, and it was a distribution company, so everybody drove and stuff. So he asked everybody, hey, you know what? Who in here never ever ran a yellow light before? And this one guy raised his hand, and the consultant said, you're a liar, because everybody who drives ran a yellow light, whether it's by accident or what. Yeah. But the consultant ended up apologizing to the guy, because the guy was from Molokai, and there's no traffic lights somewhere. Okay. So, I guess we can open it up to the panel. Okay.